Hello and welcome to episode 223 of the FReality podcast. They say life goes by in a blink, so when you see your favorite teenage band up on stage together again, you might stop to ask yourself, what's my age again? Here's what's on the menu for today. We'll play, is that a VR game or is that cake? Considered a wife swap but thought it quite the hassle? Don't worry, Sony's got your back there. Swedish startup Ustlong Innovations hates us and wants to fill our lives with floating chevrons. Firewall Ultra gets countered with a combo breaker. And to tie up this finely spiced sausage, Jose will pretzel twist your ears with some upcoming releases. Chat, if you've tuned in to us today, share what you've been playing, and let's not stand on ceremony. It's time to take roll call with the FReality crew. He's the Miley Cyrus of the group, gonna come riding in on a wrecking ball. That's right, it's our guy who always brings a fun time. It's Jose. Hey, Jose. How you doing, man?
Hey, oh man, I am just so amped. I finally have fast internet where I'm staying, and it's so awesome. It's like it made my whole entire relocation experience so much better. I didn't realize how fast internet has a direct relation with how I'm feeling emotionally, which is absolutely crazy to say out loud, but it's the truth. It was giving me 90s PTSD, not being able to download things at the speed that I expect it to be. So it's been awesome consuming a lot of content.
Is it a nice consistent signal now, like something you can rely upon? It's feels like solid oak table. Yeah.
Seriously, I feel like I'm seriously, I feel like I'm hogging all of the bandwidth that they have available for this region, because I have been just leaving every single electronic headset device I have, just downloading everything. It's been absolutely nuts. But oh, dude, I am just so excited. Just playing so many games and having people from my local hometown reaching out, asking me about games like Ghost of Tabor and Breachers, which has been crazy. It reminded me of back in the day, having friends ask me, hey, you want to play COD? And, having those weird games that jump genres. It's kind of seeing that happening in VR has been just perfect time for me to have internet.
Oh man, those good, the old time feels are definitely coming back. And in the last couple of weeks, Jose, is anything particularly you've been doing or dabbling into that you want to share with the audience?
Oh man, I guess the coolest thing that I can't stop gushing about is that I'm finally officially publicly collaborating and working with Amanda Watson, the creator of Oculus Airlink. She's the person who I don't want to overstep her achievements, but Airlink was on her back, right? She built the solution and this feature, and being able to collaborate with her and having questions behind the scenes of what can we do to make this better, faster, more universal. There's solutions like virtual desktop out there that do it very well, but what happens when we can apply virtual desktop on every single headset out there without much finicking around with reliable wireless, right? It's something that us in the VR industry kind of never really think about as a problem, because we have solutions like connecting a headset to a wireless router, but most of us have multiple family members in the household, multiple devices. The quality assurance of a router just isn't there. They're not designed for that. So we're reinventing the logic. Just talking to her has been amazing. That's probably why I'm so amped and ready for just to see what I can do on my end to make VR better,
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
I mean, I talk about packet loss with my wife all the time. It's not true, but like you, I'm a router fanatic, and was once upon in my heyday chair of a Wi-Fi society, which was basically the I should call it the disgruntled gamers group, where you get people with laptops back in the early 2000s trying to wirelessly network and play games together. I tell you, that's where you learn the beauty of a cable, my man. Yeah, So I love my cables. Good. Well, thank you for that and announcing your partnership publicly and stuff. That's really awesome. Got a chance to meet Amanda myself when we were in GDC. She's got great energy. Maybe one day we'll have her on the show. All right, next up in the lineup, this lad's half troublemaker and half podcast maker. He takes the audio and bakes it in the oven at 2,000 degrees Kelvin. When it's all done, just a few chocolate chips on top, and bam, that's amore. Say howdy. It's Rowdy.
Howdy, howdy, ho.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Canadian
great.
life on the slightly easter coast.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've been noticing it, but like we've had like quite a bit of summer, like in the past 2 weeks, I would say. And then it went all back to trash. You know, like it was all downhill from there. But no, like it's been great. I actually jumped into a VR game yesterday with a buddy of mine who's doing fantastic on YouTube at the moment. It's Simply Chris, and you know him as well. And we jumped in because he's a big flight simulator fan, and he wanted to play some VTOL. So we jumped into that, and I have to say, like that was something else there. But some people are saying,
because I've seen it on. What is it? We got a problem?
No, I think my voice was doubling. I think that is what was happening because of an NDI source. I think I fixed it. But we went, like they have like, I didn't even know that because I played VTOL before, and I don't know if I actually played it with Viper or not, but I wasn't aware again, or I forgot that they have multiplayer in there. So you could both like be in the same, like you have those like planes where they have like, I mean, I don't know anything about planes, you know, like they're fighter jets. Like Chris clearly realized that I didn't know anything about planes when we were playing, because the first thing I did, I had this big handle in front of me, and the first thing I did was like pull that handle, but there was like the eject seat.
Yeah, exactly.
So we were on like Chris was about to lift off, and like I pulled the handle. We were in the air a little bit faster than we thought, and then mid-flight, I opened the canopy mid-flight because I found a button and I didn't know how to close it again, so we lost the canopy. Like, I mean, stuff like that happens. So it was quite funny. We had a good time in there. It was nice to jump in VR. Like I always say, like I don't like playing with people, but if it's with friends, you know, it's always a lot of fun. And VR is, I think, makes that even more the case. That is like, I mean, like if you play with people that you know and you like to hang out with, it's just a fun time hanging out. And
did something come out in VTOL recently? Because I saw it on Reddit. Now, you guys know.
I think it was a new DLC. I think something like that.
Okay.
Because I don't know if the multiplayer is really new or not.
Yeah, because I didn't know it had multiplayer, and to be honest, like I've got a friend who's big into aeronautics and stuff, and he was trying to get me into some of the sims, not Microsoft Flight Sim. There's another one, and I can't remember the name of it, which he'd gifted me. But it, like VTOL, is such a classic game. It's really good.
I mean,
and,
the realism of it is pretty nice, I think. I mean, as far as, I mean, again, I don't know anything about planes. I don't know how realistic it is, but it feels pretty realistic, you know. The only thing is like the graphics are not too great, but it does give that sense of speed. You know, like when you're flying, like we were doing this thing about like flying under the bridge. Yeah, there was like a map with a bridge and like flying on the, and all the signals are going off like pull up now, pull up. And it's like, no, fuck that. Like I'm gonna go under the bridge. Yeah, like you do feel a little bit like you're in a Top Gun movie, you know. That's awesome.
Exactly it. And like you say, it's like Quest level graphics, but that's another one of those games, kind of like Vox Machina back in the day, where you're like begging, like, just bring it to Quest, like make it a very popular game, because the core gameplay element is fantastic, and I hope they do port that. So great, that is an excellent highlight. Glad to see you back at it, and what a surprise, VTOL. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, well, nice to have you in the crew there, Rowdy. All right. Now, Einstein wasn't worried about relativity, nor was he worried about Moore's law. Nope. He had one fixation, and with his last dying breath, he said to his family, "Don't let the Germans get the atom bomb." We know he was talking about this lady right here. How's it going, Adam?
It's going. I'm still doing some ADD VR dabbling of, like, you know, one day I'll be playing Walkabout with friends. I'm trying to catch up on all of the DLCs because they're so they're so cheap, right? They're so affordable. So I'm like, oh, I'll buy it, and then might take me a little while to get to it because I have so many. But I really wanted to try Upside Down, which I know we had trouble saying last time. We had like I don't know 3 different versions of Upside Down, but I finally got to try that one, and it's interesting. It's a very trippy map, and I only tried the like the first course, so I haven't tried the like once we beat it, you unlock the harder course, and I'm like I can't even imagine what the difficult course looks like, because this one was challenging because it's not, they use physics differently, so and there's different like teleportation pads, so if you hit the ball towards the swirly teleportation thing, then all of a sudden it's stuck to the ceiling, and so now it's not like the map flips so you're putting on the ground. You're putting from like you had to scrape the ball from the ceiling kind of a thing, or from the side of a wall. So it's really interesting. Like I'm always fascinated with the stuff they come out with.
Does it feel like golf then when you're kind of taking shots in that way? It sounds a little bizarre and a little bit like outside the comfort zone. It's
weird, but I think because it's just a one-off map, like it's not like all their maps are like that. It's a fun addition. It makes things it mixes things up a bit, because I still have like the Atlantis one, and I think Mist, and like so many other ones that I'm behind on.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea of your library. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm still behind, but I really wanted to try this one because it's different, So you have to think a little bit untraditionally, and I feel like if you have somebody in your group who's like really good at golf, it maybe gives you a better chance because it's gonna be messed up for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like leveling. Yeah, but there's this thing about VR DLC. Like we ask for it. Like we ask for more content, more stuff, and then when they bring it, I feel like staying on top of that is it's difficult. It's really hard to keep up. There's just so much, like the well-situated games that bring DLC or add-on content. There's just too much. There's too many games and too much content, and I love it because for the people who feel like they don't have enough, this is where they go, right? And that's your social hangout, and you get to play around. But yeah, I've got about 7 or 8 now walkabout courses I'm behind. And just to highlight it, in case anybody's like, "Oh, I haven't touched walkabout in a while," there is a great deal and a bundle discount called Hole in One that's out at the moment, and you can get it's about, I think it's 30 or 40% off, maybe even more than that, across all the courses, all in one package. So I almost did it, but then I looked at my wife in a guilty way, and I was like, honey, I know I'm never going to play all these. I'm just going to wait for a Steam sale 2 years from now, and I'll do it then when I get the time. But,
exactly.
Yeah. So cool. Nice highlight there. And the mental twister that was Uptown. Uptown? I don't even know if I'm
Upside Down. You're gonna mess me up now.
Upside Down. They made it as twisty as it was meaning to be by its namesake.
It's like if you say something too often, then it doesn't make sense anymore, right?
Oh, that's like
because now I'm questioning myself. I'm pretty sure it was Upside Down.
Ketchup? Is it ketchup? I think it's ketchup.
It's like that song, right?
Which one?
Uptown Girl. No, there's something else even.
No, but it's. Now I'm even more confused.
This podcast, I don't know. We're going into mental places, aren't we? Anyway, okay, chat. You guys are out there somewhere. If there's anything you want to say to us, please let us know. Is there anything in chat so far? I see there's some questions. I think Rudel was saying, has anyone tried Deep Rock Galactic VR mod? Is it worth a try? I'll tell you what, it is. The late Dark Angel introduced me to it, and it is a great version of Deep Rock Galactic, but it feels really, really lonely. It's like cavernous spaces.
What is Deep Rock Galactic?
You don't know Deep Rock Galactic?
I know.
I've heard of it, but I haven't played it. Like, my husband's brought it up a couple times. That's the dwarf mining thing, right? Or
yes.
Okay.
Drink beer, have beards, basically just be rowdy for a day or two. And,
yay!
And it's just
super smart.
Down in the mines. It is really cool. It's a great team game. There's lots of alien swarms that come at you, and you're trying to repair oil pipelines and stuff like this. The VR mod is pretty easy. It's basically an install and just fire away. So it's a great shout. If you haven't had a chance to play around with that, definitely recommend it. Definitely
it's procedural as well. So the levels are different. Yeah. I mean, the tasks that you get are similar. So I think there's a range of I think eight different kinds of mission, or 8 to 10. kinds of missions, but the levels that you get to in the environments, they're procedural. So they are different each time you try them.
Feels great.
Yeah.
It's
and
real
each
exploration.
has like their own role. You are like, I mean, some roles are maybe a little bit more important than others because you might not be able to complete the mission without a certain role. But like every role has a specific kind of mission to it. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so like one can like dig, everyone can dig with their pickaxe like this little hole. And then there's one who has like double drills and just can dig like a giant tunnel.
Oh yeah,
there's other ones who do like platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole bunch of different roles like Rowdy's
Scouts,
saying. It's really well balanced.
Yeah.
And that game has more unlockable stuff than most games in terms of what you can go for. So if you really want to plump, I don't know, 8,000 hours into a game, then Deep Rock's for you. It's really nuts. But it's worthwhile doing the VR mod. It's also the multiplayer. You can play the VR mod in multiplayer mixed with non-VR players, which is cool. So
far, everyone who have introduced to this game loves it. Like they all love it.
Yeah, I love it. It's like when I got first introduced to Left 4 Dead, and I was like, oh my god, this game is great. It's like one of those. It's like a multiplayer VR game where you're helping each other. It's a team-based. We'll talk a little bit later about more team-based VR games. Yeah, the game I was talking about before was X-Plane, actually. It's a real hardcore sim. Then there's Microsoft Flight Simulator. Some people were talking about DCS, which is the military. DCS is not a game. DCS is a plethora of like 50 different mil sims and oh my god, like, and the amount of money you can spend on that, you can drop $2,000 without blinking. Like that is, but that is a sim where you get out the heavy books, just like Microsoft Flight Simulator can be. Like you need the manuals, you need to know what every little flick switch does. Like holy
You're
shit.
saying that it's probably cheaper to buy an actual plane?
It may very well be. Like, yeah, spend that money somewhere else, I'd say. Anyway. Okay. Anything else in chat that I'm missing? I only gave it a quick flick other than... No? Okay.
I don't think so.
So, all right, we'll keep going. So, I just had a realization that for the last 6 months, I haven't asked this or answered this question, which is, who am I? All right, well, my name is Zim, and I'm the half-American, half-Irish vocalist for this effing indie band. So it's my turn to step up to the mic and share my highlight. So my highlight is that this week, I murdered the hosts of Between Realities. Yep, I murdered them.
High five! Yeah!
I have no feelings now.
No longer a problem. But seriously, I need rehab. Last weekend, I spent 12 hours between Sunday and Monday in Breachers VR.
Wait, before you go in, like I think your stream started at like 10 a.m. or something, or like some hour, and I was like, oh, let me just check out, and then I went for dinner, I went out, I came back home, was tired, I was like, oh, let me see if anyone is on Twitch. It's like, wait, Sim is still on there? It was like 12 hours later or something. I was like, damn,
holy crap.
Someone really likes this game.
Yeah, I absolutely love the game. And you remember that feeling that we had in GDC where everyone was like in a room and it's like everyone's high-fiving and hugging and stuff like that? Well, Breachers has really given me that in the virtual sense. It's given me the ability to rekindle with a whole bunch of people who I have played games with before and people I haven't played games with. So, years ago, I would have played like Serious Sam with VR Gamer Dude, for example. I also got to bump shoulders with the killer known as Creeper Betty, Arcanian, good friend of mine, Buck, Alex, Skiva, Eric from QTC, Serpo, Silverfire, Wolfo, who might be in chat, Reezy, and Livinator, and an old Counter-Strike LAN buddy of mine from Cork in Ireland, who's now in Japan, who gets up early for matches across the globe, named Newt. So I just wanted to shout out to all those people, fine folks who I got to play with, and yeah, it was just Murder Town, right, inside. It was just great. But I want to tell people about Breachers a little bit because it came out in alpha, and it was a fantastic game and all of that. And it's just like such a bear hug, a community bear hug is what this thing offers. So between my stream and other people's shows and streams, like we've just been hopping. It's like bar hopping or something, but in VR FPS games. And it was really, really good. I got to say that out of the bunch, though, again, just to tip my hat to the BR guys, Alex was really good. He's really good at FPS games. So we were kind of going heads off in various matches. So hats off to him. That's Alex VR. And just three things I want to highlight about Breachers for those who might consider to pick it up, this weekend or whatever. First off, it's a damn smooth play. Like you get in and it is so easy to rematch, play again, vote for a map, swap teams, play more. The VoIP is great. You just hear your own team's audio, but then when you break out in between matches, there's a basketball court. And you can kind of just shoot the shit and throw some balls around, vote for a map, hit a big, literally just a big red button. I know Rowdy would press it all the time.
Definitely.
You just smack that and it loads up the next match. And to be able to just kind of play and play and play again, it makes it very easy to lose a Sunday. I'll say that. The second thing, which is really the namesake of Breachers, is the breaching part. So you'll have seen in like a trailer or whatever that Rowdy showed, right? You've got breaching foams. You can blow apart a wall. But a feature they added that wasn't there at the very beginning, which is now in the game, it's kind of production release in the main stores, and this is cross-playing on Steam and Quest and all that, is the actual breaching mechanic where you have a grappling hook that's like up a building and you're scaling down a skyscraper and you kick off the wall and you go back for it's about 3 seconds of hang time and you're swung back on the rope and you swing in and you smash through the wall, right? While you're there with your gun, whatever. It's one of the best feelings in VR I've ever had. When you do that with a bunch of people all overlapped on each other and you're all swinging back like echo versions of each other and then you smash into a room, it goes one of two ways. Either you go in and you feel like cops who've just busted into a a bunch of robbers and it's amazing, or the defenders, the bad guys, the terrorists, right? They just kill you all on sight because they could hear your footsteps or whatever. It's amazing. That feeling of like this 50-50, how's it going to go, is just incredible. So for anyone who hasn't tried Breachers in that way, the strategic elements from match to match of the different like weapons and mechanics that you've got, just fantastic. I think the one thing that the game is going to need, though, is a bit of a pipeline. And we'll talk a little bit later about I'll call it its biggest competitor and the big dog who was on the scene before, which is Firewall from PSVR 1, which we'll touch on. But one thing that Breachers does very, very well, and that's in contrast to what Firewall did well, is the lobby component and the ability to keep playing and not wait around. They really nailed it. So I'm looking forward to pipeline, some kind of customization, just something to keep you going, because there isn't at the moment today, there isn't like an unlocks system of any nature at all. So the game is really predicated on, 3 main maps, 1 deathmatch kind of area, a kill house, and that's how they launched. I'm glad they launched, and it's a fantastic game, and it has dragged me back from PSVR 2 to Quest. I didn't think that would happen so soon, but I literally spent more than a week not even touching my PlayStation because of this game. And it's probably one of the first games I've ever played that on Quest, it looks almost exactly, kind of like Red Matter 2 did. It looks almost exactly like it does on PC VR. It's gorgeous. It runs great. And actually, I prefer it that way because with no cable, you can spin around and duck and dive and all that. And one surprise advantage of the whole thing is it's a bit of a workout. Like Rowdy said, I spent most of the day doing it. And then the next day I was like, oh no,
12 hours,
my legs
yeah.
hurt.
I think 12 hours
My legs
a lot
really
of things
hurt.
in VR. It would probably be a lot for most people.
Yeah, but it's the smooth crouch and stand that you do behind boxes. You're doing squats the whole time and you don't even realize it,
Nice.
So
Zim's got a firm butt
anyway.
now.
Nice and firm.
Too much breaching.
I still have to give it a shot. Like I'm kind of like Rowdy in that I don't really like playing with strangers. I prefer to play it with friends. So I've been wanting to try Breachers, but I've got to try it with people I know and also people who'll be patient with me in the beginning. Because like the only time I tried it was, GDC at the Unity booth when they just threw me in with randoms and I wasn't sure if my microphone was on or not, if they could hear me or whatever. But it looks interesting. I just have to play it with friends so that I won't be judged too harshly at the beginning.
Clearly, Adam and I were on opposite sides. They were at GDC Breachers.
Yeah, they were. They had like a Unity booth section. There was just like one little TV.
They had a little spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really funny because like it was a big show and all that, but you feel like you see all the VR stuff. But yeah, you were on the different side of the show floor to me because we keep like revealing stuff that we saw. The other one didn't. That's funny. great. So that's that. That was my little highlight, which is Breachers. And again, shout out to the community.
Nice.
Man, it feels great. It really feels great. And that's it. It's just like it's a party. And I'm going to keep that going. And Rowdy's heard this from me before. The golden rule of VR FPSs is get in early, ride the wave, don't ignore it, because if it dries up, you'll have missed it. And we've seen it with FPSs before. This one, I think, has a bit of a tail on it because of the formula. But if they don't bring extra content, extra maps, and really the customization ability, it could dry out. But it's cross-platform, and it's great on other platforms. So try that out. With that,
one question, though. Did they add AI in this as well? Bots?
The AI is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that, I think,
and
I always think that's important. That if you can't fill up a match, that there's at least, it feels like it's not empty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that title? I'm forgetting the name of it now. It was from the, what was it called? There was a classic Battle Royale style game a little while back, and there was a 32 by 32 multiplayer game with bots where you could have, like, you had helicopters and, parachute down, and I forget the name of it. There was Standout was the first title that they had, and then they went on to this bigger form. And that's actually where Viper and I first had an online
altercation.
I still remember. We definitely did. I hated him for a few
I had to calm them down.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I don't get upset at almost anybody, but man, we had an altercation, all right, definitely for a few months, but then met in person, and we're both, he's full Irish and I'm part, and it was like, all right, man, cool, we're good now. So, plus he's like me, he's juggling too many kids, so we've got that in common. But yes, the AI is actually very good, I would say. It feels like a 0.8 of a player, like 80% of a player. So it won't make you frustrated in that it's killing you constantly, but it's enough to fill the gap when there isn't a player there. And sometimes it'll catch you off guard and you'll get killed by a bot and you're like, feck, that shouldn't have happened. But it's good. So if you want to practice on your own, you can do that. Nice. You can go find an empty server. You can also run private matches, which is really good. A lot of VR FPS games forget that. So you can run either an open or a closed, like password protected server, which is really helpful because it means that people can get groups of people together, and it has your username. So the trick that I use to not get into a group of screaming kids is you just look at the usernames of the servers and you pick one that sounds sensible and not like some idiot wrote it. And you go in there and you usually find a group of mature players. And it's like, hey, that works. And then you have like a mostly, full server, maybe a couple of bots in there, but good times. So I would recommend definitely check it out. And I'm sure it's got a friend system as well. So you can friend people, see if they're online, and just directly click a join button to join them in game. So I would recommend when you're in a match with people, you find some people you like, just on the scoreboard, click add friend. And it's like a one-way directional, handshake. If they accept the handshake, then you'll be able to jump into their matches directly, which makes matchmaking very easy.
Oh, that's awesome.
From that point.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of playing with friends in competitive games because I'm trash and I normally don't. I know my skill curve, so I just rather be alone in those kind of games.
Okay, we need to play together then, though.
Yeah, let's do it.
I
was thinking about that. I was like, Adam and I are going to be gaming because I don't think I have the mental patience of getting my butt whooped by Alex like 1,000 times. Like I don't want that. I don't want that cred.
There was a great support class in this game, and I've gone on too long about Breachers, but I'll just continue this piece. So in Breachers, there is a little hover drone that you can. So you grab it. It looks like a little handy cam. You throw it in the air. It buzzes around, and you see that in first person, and you can actually tag and tell your teammates where enemies are, right? And it really helps. So the drone class, the kind of support class, is great as a starter for someone who doesn't want to go just jumping into the gunplay. And then there's a bunch of other things like smoke grenades and stuff like that. But just the feeling is great. And even if you just want to stand back from the door, one little tip I'll share that an online player taught us was if you hit the doors with the butt of your gun, they will break more easily than you're hitting it with a hand or something like that. So you get two people standing on each side of a door, you both smack it with the butt of your rifle, the thing collapses in, your team floods through. It really is a great
Adam,
team experience.
You and I, army of two. We're gonna top the charts. We're gonna go pro.
We're gonna top the charts 1 point at a time. Eventually, over 5 years.
When you're warmed up, join on Zim. We'll have a good match.
Look at that! When you're warmed up, then you can join me. I'm so
can't see
good
me
at
at
this
the moment.
game.
I think you
If anyone's
convinced
taught me
though.
to warm up, it's fucking Rowdy. Jeez, I remember we used to play, what was it, Pavlov, I remember, and you were really good with that.
I think I was
used
best
to
at
join in on
Population 1, actually. I think that was the one.
Pop 1 was good.
That's the one I played the most.
That was fun. Those are all good games. So anyway, so speaking of FPSs, let me talk about something that's really hit the internet hard in the last couple of days. And game lovers, it's time to pinch ourselves because I think we might be dreaming. This week there was a game trailer from the game called Unrecord that took the FPS-loving world by surprise. Multiple millions of views in just 2 to 3 days, showing a body cam footage that looks like a dream VR game. Many didn't believe that it was actually a game. But then the developers actually showed us off an Unreal Engine 5 flyby render and a tour of the demo world that they'd showed through this cam. And it is really jaw-dropping, the level of detail and the kind of feeling of this body cam in this world. Everything from reloading the mag to even the enemies that they take on in this game. And I couldn't believe it. But a couple days later, they posted Unreal Engine 5's got this special system called Nanite, which uses a new internal mesh format, rendering nanotechnology to render pixel scale detail and high object counts to really give a real feeling. And there's a couple of games now that are leveraging this, that are actually out or coming out. So there's one horror game, I didn't snag the name of it, that uses the same kind of found footage like body cam style. That looks terrifying. This one is called Unrecord. And again, it's just like a really dramatic looking experience. And so, Rowdy, once you think that they've gotten enough of a flavor of the original footage, show them the dev flyby, which is the next video up, which is showing the kind of dev side to it. But did you guys come across this on your socials this week? And I'm curious what you thought about it.
It's insane. I had to show my husband. I had to show everybody because I was like, this is a game. I think I'm pretty sure. But even the animations of like you said, like reloading and just like kicking the doors open. I'm like, it's smooth. Like it's so strange. I don't know. I could see how people will be skeptical, but I guess we'll see. Whenever it comes out, if it is like it is. But it's so weird.
Yeah, it goes to show. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Jose.
No, it goes to show how there is such a maturing of skills that's just being applied to like 3D rendering. I hate calling it, but this is all just part of the AI revolution. It's just a lot of predictive rendering and a lot of tools that are kind of being applied into the virtual avatar, kind of like they're applying the similar rendering techniques that we have applied to like virtual reality, which is how things are rendered based on what you're seeing. They're applying that same logic outside of how the headset renders. So now they're all these it's incredible how we're only just getting started with all these amazing up rendering and upscaling, and I'm so excited.
The detail in the environment's really interesting, and some people were saying like, what would be the transformation of this in a VR game? I think the thing that's really interesting is those details, the texturing level, just the kind of finer stuff that we were talking about when it comes to kind of the composition of AI and engines like UE5. That combined is just such a powerful force, and I think we are in for, even a year from now, some pretty I'll say terrifying in a positive way, some terrifying experiences in terms of the level of detail. And this doesn't just apply to shooters, right? I mean, you could use the same kind of engine for a game like Moss, for example, just to give you that extra level of believability. So seeing this just absolutely whets my appetite for games in general. And we'll touch a little bit later in the podcast on similar technologies and other stuff that's actually coming up as well.
I think that what makes especially this so realistic is not just the textures, but is the adaptive light technology that they're using. Like not only how like reflections and how light bounces off, but if you look at like the way that it's like filmed with the body cam, it uses like a slow exposure kind of time, kind of like what we're used to seeing with cameras. Not how our eyes specifically work, but it's mostly how our cameras work. When you aim at like the bright sky, it takes like a moment to adjust. When you go to a dark room, it's very dark, and then like the exposure increases, and like kind of like, you know, that slow exposure time. Not really how our eyes work, of course, but more like how cameras work. And that makes this look very realistic, I think. And I mean, I don't want to toot the AI horn again, but like indeed, like just imagine combining this with like large language models, and like, you know, that you have not only procedural generated environments like this, but like procedurally generated text and speech, and you know, that kind of stuff. Characters,
yes.
All of that stuff is going to be, it's going to revolutionize so much stuff, I think.
You're gonna have some, you know what I mean, walking down a street in Tokyo, and some Japanese woman will throw the bathwater out of a window or something, you know, and shout at you in a different language, and
exactly, and because they're already doing it now, they're now like building in like GPT models or like the GPT engine into games, so you can converse with characters of games. I know there's a VR game that did that recently as well, where there was, I think, Brother Giuseppe, like was like a preacher or something like that. So you have that. And actually, like last week, and that's also maybe something that is a little bit interesting, is that Stability AI, which is the ones who started the entire Stable Diffusion, they released their first large language model, or their latest large language model called Parrot, which now has a commercial and an individual license with it as well, that allows people to use this instead of GPT, which is going to, again, like speed this thing up so much, because now people can use this without paying a lot of money for tokens.
It seems like the year of catalysts, you know, whether it be for your workflow, for creating images, for creating realistic characters.
Yeah.
And there's
from dialogue to procedure manuals, you know, it's insane. So nice. The future that's coming at us, and so dramatically quickly. It's like,
and it's not I know, at least for me, I was a little intimidated at first, because you hear, you know, if you're on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, you hear all about it, and it's like, what is this? But when you just try it, it's like anyone can do it. Or I even got so deep into it that I went and got a specific like marketing course just on good prompts to put in. And it's not like, you know, I don't know anything about coding or whatever, but it's like whatever your field is or whatever you're interested in, like you can probably apply this to help you just think better or think faster or write better, even for just putting it to the, I guess, more normal day-to-day cases. But there's just so much you can do, and I'm like, so I've been obsessed. Thanks, Rowdy.
It's gonna fuel that entire discussion of like, do we live in a simulation? No, is this the Matrix? Like, if you see stuff like this,
I was literally about to say that. It's made me feel, you know, I'm honestly, it's a really good, you know, humbling depression killer or mood booster, because it kind of really makes you highlight how easy we are to mathematically calculate. You know what I mean? That's really what ChatGPT has really made me kind of force into like perspective. It's like, wow, when you really apply how all of this is done, it's just nothing but predictive text at a very, very, very high level, which means we're nothing but predictable creatures to such an extent that it's like
that's the thing, of course. Like that's what differentiates us still, I think, from like these like large language models. I mean, I still don't deem them as intelligent, but like, because they need a prompt still in order to function, right? They don't think for themselves. That's still a big difference, of course.
This all just feels like Inception or some kind of dream state. You know, it really does. So I see where you're taking us down that road again, Rowdy. It's a little intimidating. It's kind of like when you look up at the stars and you go like, oh, there's so much out there that we don't know. I feel like we're getting rushed by this stuff to some degree, and it's at times it's like a great feeling. It's a feeling of adrenaline. And it also is that same feeling of being on the roller coaster when it just goes over the edge and starts to drop. You know, that feeling of free fall?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like a little bit. And it's like, where is this going to end up, right? This is pretty incredible. So we're going to have to add AI to the podcast.
By this
XR,
point.
FER.
It is part of it.
It's still 2 letters, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Real quick,
no 3 letters allowed.
Bringing it back to the original topic, which is the video. One of the things I wanted to add is I really feel when people were watching this video, Also, there's a weird phenomenon that's almost being brewed because we're so used to it looking at real life through a screen to the point that tools or artificial lighting techniques are tricking our eyes into seeing it as real life. But when you look at that video, like, put it into a high resolution and then go outside and put it in a warehouse, there is a powerful uncanny valley that you notice. But when you see it, when you're inside your house next to a bunch of devices and you look at it, it looks realistic, and it almost goes to show this is not, I personally don't think it's the best that graphics can do. In reality, it's the best that the eyes can be tricked.
But that's exactly what I mean with, like, they played around with that kind of thing by using a camera with, like, that slow exposure kind of thing, because we're so used to seeing that kind of stuff from, like, when we record with phones, when we record whatever.
Exactly.
So they use that slow exposure, and that probably, like, hides some of the things that would, if it was high resolution, high exposure, like, very fast, then would you probably say, like, I am, but I can see this and you can see that. But because it's like that, a little bit of like a shabby camera that is recording it, you can like trick the mind into like seeing like this is something that was recorded that looks real, which I think is very smart.
And that's a lot like the Blair Witch point, and like I mentioned about that horror game, which, sorry, I don't have the name of it, but that kind of found footage feeling puts you in the shoes. It's another Fatal Frame. It's another immersion tactic, right? Which like puts you in the shoes of the person who's there, because I suppose most of us will have had a Handycam at some point and like looking through the viewfinder, right, as you're shooting the scene or watching someone else's footage back. So it's really interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna dovetail us into the next thing, which is if that doesn't feel like dreaming, well, this will feel like waking up. As we awaken from our pixelated slumber, Dreams is dying off. It's a game from the original PSVR 1, which was really neat and allowed full worlds and games to be created in VR. A quote by the studio Media Molecule says, "We've made the difficult decision to discontinue live support of Dreams." This is like deja vu or something. As of the 1st of September 2023, to shift our focus to an exciting new project. How many exciting new projects are happening in Q3 this year? You know what I mean? Like they're sunsetting quite a lot. I feel like this is the third or fourth time on the podcast we've killed something off or have heralded its demise, its sunsetting. And this is just another one. So Dreams is going away, something else is coming in. No guarantees that next thing is going to have VR support, but hey, here's another one. It just tells me something's happening in Q3 this year. I don't know what it is. If it's like Meta's decided we're pulling the plug and you're not getting server support, and hey, if you don't want to pay for it, you got to pull the plug. This in case is, of course, Sony, with Dreams being a PSVR 1 title. I don't know. Did any of you muck around in Dreams? I'm curious about that.
I went to their opening when they first released the game.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, I thought. Like, is this like how you can make games, right, in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game engine.
It's like a game maker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a game engine.
And the kind of stuff they made with that, I was a guy making like the entire Jurassic Park movie. I remember.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. That looks so cool. He had like the side-by-side comparisons, and I was like, "Holy crap! Like that's crazy."
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that Media Molecule has tried so many times to kind of make this happen, especially with Little Big Planet, which I still think is their best franchise that they could make, and it goes to show like their engine tools and creation knowledge. I feel like they've been trying to achieve like the most accessible game maker engine, but I feel like that what's killing them is the partnership with Sony. I feel like if they would have had this engine completely be independent and maybe work on, especially now that crossplay is such a big thing. Imagine if they would have had this on Xbox and on PC and other. They just make it completely platform agnostic. It would have survived every time. I feel like I hope Media Molecule is kind of aware of that. They're like, hey,
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know. So those are the same guys behind Little Big Planet.
Yes, Little Big Planet. All the way up to 2 and 3. They licensed it away, and then they started focusing on Dreams, which is a similar engine. It's an evolution of it. It's incredibly versatile. The things that you can do are just bonkers. It's incredible. And that's the problem. People were remaking games from the ground up, which rebuilt communities. People were actually making clones of well-known games and experiences. I think I even saw somebody made, I think it was called Pong Pong Ultra, which was a first-person Pong that looked a lot like Echo VR if it would have been, not unfortunately not VR. But it goes to show how people were building that. It just, man, if this was platform agnostic, it would have been just a different story.
Yeah, and so anyway, thank you for that history lesson, because I was a huge fan of Little Big Planet and loved playing that with my wife, my kids, that kind of stuff. I mean, I did feel a change in the game. So it's interesting that the original creators kind of disbanded from it and sold the licensing off, because then they went to Sackboy and a few other creations.
I haven't even tried that.
I suppose that's different devs then.
Mm-hmm.
Still feels great, and it's great overloading your environments and crashing your world or whatever. But if you haven't checked out those games, definitely in the flat gaming space, those are things to try out. But yeah, so that's the end of that dream, But I wanted to kind of convert us over to another bonkers title. There's one called Humanity, which is an action puzzle game that's coming out on May 16th. There was a kind of a free demo of this out just for a very short time at the very beginning of PSVR 2's launch, which people could dabble in. But if you like free VR games, I say free with air quotes, of course, but available on day one as part of the PlayStation Plus's game catalog lineup for May at no additional cost to PlayStation Plus Extra or Premium members, Humanity's coming out. This is like lunatic lemmings from Japan, is what I call this. So
it
is an absolutely nuts game. I'm gonna go ahead and show that off. And it's just like it's one of two PSVR 2 tips thought we would share today. Did any of you get to play the demo when it launched? I missed it.
Very briefly. It was. I'm not a big like puzzly platformy person. I mean, I like the dog, but that was pretty much the only selling point for me. But it was interesting, like the people physics, because the way that you can move them from platform to platform. I mean, I didn't play that much of the demo, but I feel like they could do more with some of the level designs. But I don't know. It wouldn't be something that I'd be like, yeah, I'm really excited for. I'd be like, if someone was like, hey, this game's here, I'd be like, okay, I guess I'll try it, because if I don't have anything else to play. But it's cute. I don't know. It's fine.
It's madness is what it is.
I did notice that it is actually funny enough, researching it, because I do love puzzle games. And I do love Lemmings, ironically enough. But it is coming for PCVR, it looks like. I did see a Steam launch page for it, so it looks like it might be releasing around the same time. So it's one of those games that I kind of was excited to play on PSVR 2, but I was like, oh well, I do. It is coming on Steam, so I'll probably try it.
I just got a bit scared when I saw the dog and I knew it was a Chinese restaurant, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on in this game?
What is this shenanigans?
Yeah, and it's called.
Exactly. I don't know the story or anything, but I think the dog's actually dead, or it's like an angel or something. So I mean, I don't know how it died if it did die.
I think that's cultural. I think they are associated with guidance and trustworthy. Okay. Yeah.
Strange.
You're right to a good meal. Well, for other folks who, like me, find wife swapping a pain, well, just press that PlayStation button twice on your Sense controllers to go straight to VR settings. That's your tip of the day. Voila. Double tap for wife swap. So what that means is, if you have difficulty in changing the eye settings, right, of your headset when you've got other people to showcase it to, you just double press on the Sense controller, the PlayStation button, and it's a shortcut button straight to your VR settings, so that you can set that up and swap heads very, very quickly. Okay, so I just wanted to, that's an easy one to make your night better, and wanted to thank users Rum and Moby323 from Reddit for the quick tip on that. All right, well, if that's not enough madness for you, it's no coincidence I'm wearing a SideQuest hoodie today. I wanted to pair this with SideQuest's newest social spawnling. Launched on 420, out comes Banter. This is available on SideQuest, and you can go get the fledgling new social hub from the mental minds of Orla and Shane Harris again. It's like a virtual world with physics akin to Bone Lab and avatars like those imported from Ready Player Me, which it supports. You get your full body. This isn't a discount body, right? You get arms and legs and all of that. And you've got worlds akin to what VR chat used to look like a couple of years ago. So the intention here is to get a kind of a fun social hangout going. One of the things I wanted you to remember, and we've had Shane and Orla on the podcast before, is that they started off with and they're yeah, definitely remember the dogs who were yipping throughout the show. What is it with dogs? We got dogs all over today. But they started off as this social app, and for the life of me, I couldn't find the name of it again. It was a weird name. I can't remember. Rowdy, do you remember what it was called before? So prior to SideQuest, I think it was Shane had originally designed this social world, right? And then they pivoted into SideQuest as like a thing that they were going to do to launch their new social world. SideQuest rocketed and took off and became this big thing. So the way I see this is there's still that like siren in the back of the head going, you need to make a social world. Do it. Now you've got the platform. You can make it. If you build it, they will come. So I don't know how successful this is going to be, but it is interesting, and it's got some unique selling points over other games. As I said, that physical nature, the kind of physics engine, means that you can have the climb experience in the game and go visit worlds. What's going to motivate people to use this one over the others? I don't know. Time will tell, right? But that's called called Banter.
Yeah,
so that's brand new, out from the SideQuest.
Interesting. And I'm guessing it's only on SideQuest.
For now, only on SideQuest. And they are hoping to bring as well full, I'll call it body tracking support into the app, but that's not a feature just yet.
But how?
So
it's only on the Quest, right? Like it's like, so you can't use trackers unless it's through Steam.
No, so SideQuest can still be PC VR games, right? So, yeah. I mean, SideQuest started there. It's not just Quest isolated. So I would imagine just like VR chat, it would be, it's a full fat PC VR experience, but then they would tack on tracking mechanism through body trackers that would be compatible with the headset you're using. So
that's kind of the way everybody's doing it right now, and it's unfortunate. Like they're like that sounds so inaccessible.
Yeah. But, it's going to shortcut soon, right? We're going to have inside-out tracking with your physical frame, and they just need cameras pointed at the human, I think. But there's still limits because of the physical placement of it being on your head. And also, as that footprint isn't a shelf sticking out of your face and comes in closer and closer and closer, you get a worse and worse view of your feet and your arms and your legs and stuff. So how we're going to solve that one, I don't know, but I suppose machine learning / AI can fix this maybe there as well.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, and really a dovetail off of something that we were talking about just a bit earlier, let's feature this little thing from spatial computing. Text to VR is a gripping concept, which we've spoken about before without that label. Text VR, where a prompt entered by a human can turn directly into full-form VR experience. As shown in a video post on Reddit, we can see, and as the author remarked, from a simple text prompt, we can now create an animated, realistic 3D avatar that will move to our commands. You just input a person walks, stops, and waves, and an automated process has been developed to create a simple bone animation that is later transferred to a 3D avatar. The action is simple, and its outreach unlimited. Instead of having to manually rig bones and animate different poses and actions, a hard and time-consuming process, it is now possible to create 3D animations flawlessly by simply describing them. So this is, again, an extension beyond that prompt-based learning that Adam was experiencing recently. We are in the process of combining the technology that we are developing from prompt to animation with other AI models that allow us to generate dialogues or build synthetic spaces purely based on text. The ultimate goal of this is to develop a framework in which entire scenes can be developed from text in order to build XR experiences that can accelerate and improve social research and make your games a feckin' lot better, right? That's what I'm reading into this one. So that's a kind of nifty thing. That's one project. There's one more here, and then I bloody want to open for Rowdy's thoughts on this if he hasn't seen this already. There's a second interesting video that we've got from Israeli University in Tel Aviv, demonstrating the human motion diffusion model, which again is taking learned information and again on a prompt basis doing a very similar thing with almost a I'll call it a kind of a better looking video to demonstrate. And it shows, again, a human formed individual receiving a prompt and walking down a stage and like showing the different iterations of this. So for example, if the prompt is entered, human kicks a ball, it shows different versions of that interpreted by the engine. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, hang on a second. We're really damn close to having this in a game, right? Like this is getting really, really scintillating now. This is lighting up all the synapses in my brain for sure. So seeing this human motion diffusion model and the previous one, which showed us a text to AI prompt, I thought that these were things that were pretty interesting. And again, this is like such a leap from what we had even just last summer. So I presume, Rowdy, you've seen stuff like this before, but what are your thoughts on it, being our resident expert?
I mean, like I said, like this stuff is going to kick off, like especially now with the popularization of like GPT and like all those other large language models that are coming out. Like there is so much stuff going to be happening in these next couple of months of where you see this like importance of text, and then like what can we do with text prompting. But on the other hand, you also have a lot of models that are using image or using video as input to create something else, which I think they're even further with right now. I know that I forgot the name now of the channel, the guys who used to run Node. You remember?
Oh yes, someone just linked me this actually. I think I know what you're talking about. Hold on a second, I'll pull it.
Yeah. So what they did is they used like some of those stable diffusion models to create an animation based on video inputs, and they used a diffusion model that was trained on the Vampire Hunter D, I think, which is a particular artistic style. And then they had a few shots where they were playing rock paper scissors, and they moved that into an animation kind of scene based on video input. So on the one hand, you have these text models, so text to video or text to image, text to text, you have all these kind of different models, but you also have the reverse where you have video to text, you have video to image, or video to video, or image to video, and like you have all these kind of different combinations that you will start seeing, like text plus video returns in another video. You have these different models that will start working together, and I think that we're going to see amazing stuff coming out of that, where it's not going to be that long before someone's going to have a YouTube channel that is based on text input. And everything is being video generated is by text, or by a combination of, for example, video and text or image and text, and get output like that pushed in. Because modeling would become so much easier. Like this is ideal because you need to just input text and you get a model back. But another step that you could do is where you actually do the action yourself, you record yourself doing it, and then have the model, instead of you entering text, the model sees you waving, for example, and translates that into the actual bone mechanisms that are required, and that then gets imported into your game.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I saw that this week. There was a woman walking on a beach, and she replaced herself in video format with it was like a mechanical robot or something, and that change was there. One of the things that I'm wondering about in the risks of the ease of production is just volume. So you'll know it from from an internet services side, right? For distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks, right? Where you flood a web listener from 100,000 different endpoints, and it can't manage traffic anymore. So you take down, I don't know, something like that as a result. That could happen with targeted attacks on just even like a major channel. Say, Jacksepticeye's out there and he wants to publish his latest video or something, and people are literally uploading clips that maybe he is going to use, and it just prevents his video from being seen at all just by flooding. And it also might take those content servers time to be able to work out. So I don't know. I feel like that noise level, that volume, and automatic generation might be a concern that we have in the next year or so. This kind of flooding of front ends, because you don't have the human time to be able to sift it. So you end up in a little war of bot versus bot. Like this bot's generating, this bot's filtering, and then trying to parse out the human element of all of that. So that we're going to become less and less and less and less. We are going to be such a tiny noise level by the end of, I don't know, the next 2 decades.
It's actually happening
maybe
now
even sooner
with
than that.
with a lot of famous people that are known for endorsing products, like Joe Rogan. There's a bunch of videos surfacing on YouTube that are using his voice to market a bunch of products that he has no affiliation with whatsoever. And it's and Rowdy mentioned this earlier, like adaptive training, right? And we think about the difficulties or how it's going to expedite animation and production, but the reality is the training side of it all requires hand-drawn animation. So let's say, like, for example, the video, I think that one that Rowdy was talking about is a Corridor Digital video where they actually filmed themselves doing a bunch of animations playing. I think it was like rock, paper, scissors, and then they use a bunch of anime scenes to train this AI model to make them look like these animations based on an anime. So they essentially made an anime using physical mocap. But one of the unhighlighted key parts about this video was that these animations were already made. The drawing style, the work, they used an animation that was already released that had thousands of human hours, in developing, digitizing, and they just essentially ran with it. So if there is, let's say, somebody who's going to be building a production from the ground up, they still have to do the animations. They still have to do the assets and create the training.
To an extent.
Essentially, to an extent, right? But, it does make the job faster.
It makes the job faster, but there's going to be it makes perfect sense for a lot of those animators to be really frustrated about this because yes, like imagine you're a company and say, okay, we can hire an animator to, develop all these styles and do this and like make this, and we hire him for 5 years, boot him out, and then we can use the style for the rest of, our life. We don't need to pay an animator anymore. So, an animation is also such a sensitive topic because these styles, like, they're so personal often. Like, especially they use Vampire Hunter D, which is, for those who know anime, it's a very, very well loved and very particular kind of style. But you also have models that you can mix together and then it's going to become a lot harder to see. And I think that's a little bit the issue that I think Midjourney is currently having, is that they have already found proof that they've been using pictures where they didn't have licenses for. There's going to become a lot of, I think, difficult ethical discussions that are going to come out of this about, what you can use, what is open use, what is, cover behind this. It's going to change a lot of things, I think.
It's a mad world ahead. No matter which way you cut it, there's going to be things that surface out of all of this that take your breath away, and there's going to be stuff that's really tragic that happens to people as a result of the new technologies. It's such a yin yang, right? But it's just coming at us so quickly. It's cool. I hope it solves some problems. I hope it solves, for example, I want them to apply AI to legal issues like rights and content, and I'd love them to be able to resolve that, like attributions tying back to the original creator, because I feel like right now we're in that moment where, kind of like you were in the 90s with Napster, where it's like, oh God, my stuff is literally exploding and going everywhere. It's on an MP3. I can't control it. There's no span of control. And I feel like with the attribution and the fact that you've got the digital tieback, it's like all it takes is a system to be able to track that down, find it, and from a royalties perspective, maybe that original mind who created it can be attributed with that
fonts,
and get what they deserve.
Fonts kind of do that. Recently, I had someone reach out to be like, "Hey, you have this font on your website that you hadn't paid the licensing for," and I was like, "Oh, oops!" So I did just whatever yearly thing, and I got rid of it off my site. But yeah, if you can do that for fonts, I imagine there's going to be some kind of footprint maybe left over, for some things like this. But I don't know, it does get a little more complicated because Rowdy was saying it may mesh with others.
A lot of that stuff, because for example, I'll show it on screen now. There's this website where you can download these kind of models from just for free, and this is one, for example, for Kevin Hart. Then you can just these are not pictures from Kevin Hart. These are just pictures that someone has generated based on a specific kind of prompt.
The Pope. The Kevin Hart Pope.
I love that.
Jeez. Yeah, they do look good.
You can, I mean, for
like
some
the
of them, you
idea
can
of
you can
AI
definitely
cops
see
just
that it's
tracking
not
everything on the internet.
it's not him, but like at the same time, you know, like it's kind of scary. I mean, they did it for The Rock as well, of course. So there's another one that is for The Rock.
I've seen it.
You know, you have like a lot of these kind of models, and as long as there's enough data of you out there that is not, I mean, is it legal to make this model? Probably not, because Kevin Hart never said, you know, you can make this model of me. But is he going to copyright strike every image on the internet that is available from him? Also, probably not.
Well,
right?
Universal Music Group is I think the first one that's officially one of the bigger ones that is officially arming themselves against AI. And I believe Drake and his there was a song that actually went viral in
Drake
the
and
hip hop
Weeknd.
circles.
Drake
Yeah,
and
the Drake and
Weeknd.
the
Yeah, but how?
Weeknd.
Like, it's that volume problem, right? Unless they automate, they can't do it with human
They have
beings.
to use
They're not
AI
going to catch up.
to scrub everything. Yeah.
Exactly, which is why I think that the direction that governments should be going is fund and build some kind of attribution mechanism in like a global connection. It's got to be that, and it just goes and looks
like a check mark that humans can only pay for.
like a check mark. I am not
The
following you at
human
all.
the human it's funny because that's really what Twitter. That's
right.
that's kind of that's what everybody Meta is following the role. Everybody funny enough, we saw this already. It's just we have never seen it evolve. It is the I am not a robot or I am a human check mark.
Dude, that's going to break down so quickly. Like just in the models that we saw in the last month or two's like worth of podcast coverage, like how long is it before you have an AI who literally makes money in order to overcome a payment barrier? You know what I mean? They just go off and start a company and then do something, hum away, have a bank account, transact the money. Like you're going to have an AI billionaire out there someday, right?
It's happening.
It's like crazy to think about.
That's the scary part. Is that we talk about
no human involved. No human involved.
The scary part is that we talk about this stuff because it's so disrupted that we talk about it in the future. But there is actually articles of like mobs that are doing this. Like they're literally using audio of people. Like this is like a reality that we are going to have because we're on podcasts. Our audio is on the internet, right? So essentially somebody will eventually call one of our loved ones and say, you know, I am Adam Bombardi, please. I'm stuck somewhere, send me $5,000. And
I'm in Africa.
if you know, yeah, it's going to be something scary like that. And it's actually already happened in my company. For me, I actually had a email, a text of one of my employees reaching out to my COO, and it looked realistic. It was like, hey, I have issues accessing my bank account. I need to get a pay stub for a loan. It sounded really urgent, and like it almost looked real. Fortunately, you know, we're a little bit savvier than that, but it's happening. It's
like
scary.
a new level of tricking old people. It's like just gets more advanced. You know, like now we laugh at the old people who fall for like the, you know, Nigerian prince scam emails, but you know, eventually when they actually have a voice of a loved one, you know, it's going to be like you're going to have all these safeguards. It's like, okay, this sounds Secret like you. I have to contact you, you know, maybe like actually make sure that this is you. Like how far back is that going to go? You know,
it's actually.
Can you imagine how difficult it is to actually transact with banks if you're a Nigerian prince? It must be really difficult. Like call up, no one believes you. You're like, I'm a Nigerian prince. What won't they take?
I think my approach is to be my own deterrent. So like I have explicitly told anyone if I ever call asking for money or anybody calls asking money for me, just don't give it. Let me die. Like if it's a ransom, don't give it. I'm putting it publicly out there. You ain't gonna get nothing if I'm kidnapped. So
it's actually it's funny that you brought up that example because I think. Roughly, like I think 1 year or 2 years ago, I read a book from Ray Kurzweil, which is, you know, one of the lead speakers probably on this kind of thing. And maybe you should all read it as well. I think the book is. I look it up, but I think it was called "The Singularity Is Near," and it's basically describing that exact scenario where developers or artificial intelligence engineers, they develop the first, you know, artificial intelligence, a real AGI, you know, something that can perform all the tasks. And of course, it starts off being dumb, but it proceeds to describe the entire scenario of like what steps it would have to take for it to like overtake pretty much every system in the world. And that starts very simple with like, doing jobs on, for example, Amazon Turk. And like it starts hiring people to work for them in order to like, get more data, labeling data. They can employ people to start labeling that data so that they can train themselves better. And eventually they start making money because they can do the jobs on Amazon Turk, way, way faster.
Got data slaves.
After a
Human
week,
data
I
slaves.
think that like after a week, like the AI became like a millionaire, and then after 2 weeks, it was a billionaire, and like it starts like expanding because it will be able to do all these jobs at virtually no ceiling level. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't take a break for anything, and after I think like a year or something, every news site, every political system, everything was being run by that AI. And it was a positive scenario that he was painting.
I'm so ready. I know that you're talking about this like as a grim thing, but I'm just
no.
Ray
Kurzweil is not. He's not negative about this kind of stuff. This was a positive scenario he was sketching out, because this was an AGI that worked with humans in mind. That had a moral code. That had like
Yeah, but what happens if a center like that, not a business, not like an AI that doesn't do business, but it for whatever reason, its intent, its purpose gets misaligned, and it goes and it creates an AI mafia, equivalently.
That's
even
why
backed up with
that's
humans
why I
and
think
employing
it's a
humans
great
and-
time to be.
Let's go. I'm so excited.
Jose just wants, like,
He just wants to see the
I
world
love
burn.
this stuff.
The
It's
thing
not
is,
even just the world burn, it's inevitable. Like there is a 90% chance that that's going to happen. So if it's going to happen, we might as well enjoy it.
no,
Like,
I don't. I'm not too worried about that much.
No.
I am very much on the field where I think it's a great time to be either like a philosophist or a psychologist, or people who are trying to understand humans. They're gonna play an important role in because what you're describing, Zim, is the AI misalignment problem, or the AI alignment problem, where how do we ensure that the goals that an AI has is aligned with the goals that we foresee it to be? Because you come back to the paperclip simulator. If you give the AI the goal of like make as many paperclips as you can, well, that's not really going to be something you're going to want if it destroys the entire planet or takes over the universe. So setting up goals is going to be something that is going to be very crucial. Yeah.
Well, what was the name of the book again,
Yeah,
Rowdy? Someone was asking in chat.
I think, I'll look it up properly, but I think it's called The Singularity is Near. From Ray Kurzweil.
That's what singularity means to me, right? Like you said it yourself, it's finding the humanity to collaborate with, robot overlords or the evolution of it all. But who said that that's a peaceful agreement, right? Because you're right. What happens if the AI eventually says, you know what, humans, I ain't good for this task. Let me handle this part.
I've watched the Animatrix too many times to feel good about that future, but at the same time, I'm certainly excited for what comes next. It's just like, it's like a don't blink. If I was to say one thing like this podcast, it's like, don't blink. You got to pay attention to the coming months and weeks, because if you don't pay attention, if you're like, oh, like that lady in Italy or whatever went into a cave for 300 days, like you're going to come out and be like, what the hell happened? Like everything is different, and you might fall out of sync, and that might force you to fall out of, for example, being happy or being content with what you're doing or your station in life, or all these different things. So yeah, just pay attention. We're going to be moving at a rate that I don't think, we are equipped necessarily to keep up with. Maybe our kids and, the next generations will be, but likelihood not. I think it's gonna.
I found the book. Actually, it's Singularity is Nearest from Ray Kurzweil, but the book I'm referring to is from Max Tegmark, who is also a futurist, talks about this kind of stuff. It's called Life 3.0. That's how it's called. Life 3.0.
Life 3.0.
Do you know it? How is it?
Yes, I know Max. That's like a futurist superstar.
Max.
That's the reason I'm so
Life
excited.
3.0.
And that's exactly it. It's like, if you know the eventual outcome, why fear it? You know what I mean? Like, this is our creation. If we die by it, it's our fault. So, like you said, let's focus on being kinder people. Philosophy.
Yeah, it just reminds me of some more recent, I think it was Star Trek shows where they were talking about the kind of advent of AI and civilizations that then outbanned it, right? Like I think it was Vulcan. I don't know. I'm not a Trekkie really, but interesting. Okay, let me send us over to one of our main topics today, which is Lyra AR. So last podcast we showed off a pair of ski goggles that could do a downhill trip. That was from Rowdy AR. It was a basic interface, bulky form factor, US made. Definitely looks it. Not saying anything. Sweden claims to be ahead of the game, and yet they do have a job listing for a UX designer on their website, which doesn't inspire confidence in this product. But new on the scene, and now with the second product announced, Ustlong, I don't know how to pronounce it, innovations in Sweden. Lyra is the world's, or is supposed to be the world's thinnest and lightest AR glasses. So I've given Rowdy two videos. One is their original product, which is actually a set of ski goggles, which has I'll call it an Apple click wheel type interface on the side of the headband, much nicer for kind of user interface compared to what we saw from Reki. But this new thing is a little bit like what we were talking about last podcast from Apple. And so, whilst maybe they're the first to stage, I will caveat, I do feel like they're probably a little bit like the hardware equivalent of Joyway. Joyway being the chop and swap studio who can't stick their landing, but we're going to have to see. So this Swedish company first promised to put out and have available for public in February this pair of downhill ski goggles with this sidebar interface. And the new thing is called Lyra. They are thin, light AR glasses. And what's really neat about them is their functionality. So the functionality that comes in these glasses is a couple of things. A multilingual live translator for speech to text or text to text. I find that very interesting. A digital note-taking assistant that can record and translate in real time, help you in meetings. Integrated GPS for route planning and navigation. This is the chevrons I was talking about in the intro. Mobile data for phone and text comms, and a music player integrated into the headset. Now they're really lightweight.
Wait.
Really
Why is there like a meeting that we're being part of in the trailer where they're like toasting champagne?
So that was their that was so this is what I'm saying. I'm getting a real funny feeling about this company, but they launched in Zurich to a group of potential investors, and the trailer is supposed to show from the stage, here's our ski goggles that we already know about, and surprise, here's also our Lyra AR headset. So that's what that video is all about.
The last 20 minutes are
they're just showing off
toasting champagne.
Is that to celebrate, like, look how successful we are?
I think
like,
so.
Look, we're important, successful
Exactly.
people.
How many people we're going to scam?
In a library?
And I need to tell you something here, right? So this is very startling. As a YouTuber, right? The video, 20 days after being posted, only had 6 views as of this morning. And they only have 16 subs on YouTube
I just
already.
played it twice, so it has 8
guys,
views now.
Hey, there you go. So this startup looks to be more fluff than stuff at the moment, but the design is a peek in the direction of what might be coming from more established brands like cough cough Apple, right, and other global brands who are operating in this space. So looks decent on paper. The model and form factor looks okay. Rowdy, if you can show us the next video, you'll see their integrated proprietary operating system. There's no word, by the way, at the moment with integration with smartphones or third-party apps or anything like that, but the Lyra smart glasses are supposed to be going on pre-sale. Again, that word doesn't, like, pre-sale in September 2023, when their snow goggles were supposed to be out in February. It's now nearly May. So I really feel like we're getting a Joyway treatment on hardware here. And I think that if Apple or anybody else beats them to the punch, they'll just blow away like dust in the noise in the area. But the video proposal for what this looks like in the future, and it's very similar to their snow goggles, which is a world that's overlain with monochromatic green, instructions, text translation, and directions. Hey, you want to go to Starbucks? here's where to go. Hey, driving through the supermarket? Not driving through the supermarket. What am I saying? Driving through the street?
Through the supermarket. The AIs have really taken over. Do it.
But like, there's so much detail that's missing. I feel like this is like Deca when we first saw Deca. There's no idea here on price or battery life for this at the moment. I think a monochromatic display like that could work for all-day wearables.
Get on the bus. Get on the bus. Like this prompt. Get off the bus.
And they're
Get off the bus.
Putting on my tinfoil hat real quick. I feel that's the reason why we see a lot of companies that execute and announce a lot of technology. And it's a term that I personally call like supply chain snipers, which is people that probably have a lot of conversations with supply chains, a lot of technology component suppliers that know that such a device with similar device components is coming out. So what they do is they essentially try to coin it as something that they're making in hopes that when that supply chain gets activated, some components and SKUs accidentally fall off the supply chain, and all of a sudden this headset starts coming out. I don't want to name headset companies, but you can probably think of a few that do similar things. It's very smart to raise investor. Deca is a really good example. They do that to get a lot of investor confidence and rally as much money as possible. The cool thing about it is that it's a really good radar and signal that these headsets are being manufactured, or at least about to be, which is exciting.
Exactly the point. So what we see before the launch of dramatic environment changing hardware is often these like pre-shadow echoes of, hey, look at me over here, right? And then when that announcement comes, that company's name will be lost forever in the sands of time. And that's what it feels like. It feels like people are trying to jump the gun because they don't want to take time for product or marketing or development. And this looks like a website that was splashed up, videos that were composited and put together, and like that champagne glass, Rowdy, they're saying, hey, look at how successful
I'm telling you.
Trend because it's popular now, and just to get their name out there while they can, even if it's something that they're not going to be able to deliver. But it's like, these things are big now.
I'm telling you. We were talking about text to video prompt. This is the kind of output that you get. I want to show successful video where I'm showing champagne being poured.
Happy people in meeting with champagne in a library,
laughing.
We need to do that. We need to do that for FReality. Make one.
There's so much value.
I have so much money.
There's such marketing value in saying you're the first. Think of a company like Apple. Like let's say, for example, that Apple is actually building the world's first augmented reality ski goggle. So now that when you search augmented reality ski goggle, this company may show up. So think about how much money Apple's legal and marketing PR system will pay to kill that messaging. And that's the reason they do it. They just want to be able to say they're the first to do it. That's why a bunch of headsets are being released that are boasting a lot of world's first X or smallest X, because they know that somebody's going to pay for that marketing and branding.
It's like, you know what it's like? It's like when people would sit on a domain name. It's like, hey, ResidentEvil5.com.
I never thought that world's smartest X was going to be a thing. World's smallest X.
It's so crazy, but there's value in the marketing, but it's so true. It's the AI, if anything, as you said, somebody can output this. It turned the value of idea so hard to quantify and value that people are now going to just say, hey, I had this idea first. Like, it's like running to take ownership of an idea now.
And I know we talked about this form factor last podcast, so I won't spend much more time on Lyra, but I'll tell you, HUD in real life, oh boy, if we couldn't distinguish between body cam footage in an FPS game, now my brain's going to have to figure out if those floating chevrons mean, I'm actually driving Gran Turismo 7 or actually on the motorway.
Because real life?
That's an important distinction,
Hopefully you don't find that when you're inside a grocery store. When you're driving through it. When you're driving through the grocery store, hopefully you know before.
Getting points.
Force
getting
feedback
points.
is so good.
That extends your usage.
What's going to happen?
But the score was going up.
Oh, no. Oh, Jesus.
God.
All right. On to our next main topic. So I'll start this with firewall access locations are compromised. So what was Firewall 0 Hour? Well, it was a strategic multiplayer first-person shooter, 4v4, which touted aim controller support back from the good old PSVR 1 days. In fact, Firewall was one of the main reasons to buy a PSVR 1 aim controller. I thought you had one there for a second, Adam. I saw something white flash in my eye. And... No, it's just
very convenient, but no.
Very convenient. Yeah. White and purple drink container of some nature. Yeah. So if you don't know what the PSVR 1 aim controller is, because it's getting on a bit, it was a lovely bit of plastic from Sony with a tracking light on the end. And oh my, some of the best immersive feel of shooters to date, and brought haptics to it as well. Farpoint, for example, was a sci-fi single-player and co-op shooter, which was incredible with the aim, and one I hope comes back to PSVR 2. I know some people loved their aim controllers so much, they're asking for it to come back again, and there be another PSVR peripheral for PSVR 2, like the original aim controller. I think we'll never see that. But fast forwarding 5 years, First Contact Entertainment, the developers behind Firewall, are microwaving their codebase to reheat our favorite TV dinner and bring us Firewall Ultra. That's a conversion from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5 to form a definitive PSVR 2 experience of the original that's been tuned up a kick with Cajun spices, hoping to rekindle the magic recipe of the original game, but in 4K and with eye tracking. Firewall sported a cast of mercenaries with which you'd select and gain valuable buffs per character. Examples being my favorite, which was Raha. Raha was what was that country? An Afghani woman who had been kind of like tortured in the streets or whatever, and she wore a facial scar. The bonus with her was heightened enemy detection, so you'd get almost like a red ping or something through a wall. You'd see it on your wrist map. Diaz, who was an American fella, he had faster movement speed, a favorite of the hardcore players. And then Grim, who would allow you to pick up your teammates faster, as it was a team play game, and you could pick up downed teammates within a limited time. So let's cover a couple of things that make Firewall a killer title, and which was a system seller for PSVR 1. And these are things that you might recognize for those who are familiar with Breachers, the game that I'm currently infatuated with, that I've recommended very strongly now that the other podcasters go and check out. Here's some of the stuff that Firewall does really well, and I think that Triangle Factory, the guys behind Breachers, should really take note, because these two, before long, I think will be good competitors for each other, even if operating on different platforms. One of those is a very, very strong progression system and unlocks. They had a content path that was well defined and communicated to players, a pipeline of maps, mercenaries, and dangly gun fangles that they called trinkets. Which would literally be there were decorations that would hang off your gun and jingle.
They were dangly.
Yeah, definitely something Adam would be into, I would think. There was a reliance on team play. So, like, it was a pick-me-up with a bleed-out timer, which was really good. You had to be quick. It was like 30 seconds or something. You'd be downed, and you'd be like, Jose, help me, Jose, you know? And they're like, he's still under fire. I'm just going to let him bleed out.
There you go.
And then there was the sense of immersion in the scenario due to, for example, the firewall hack. So the way that the round would work is you'd have the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys were trying to hack these firewall points, which, I don't know, Jose's going to have to figure this out for me. Like, why would you leave exposed firewall points just sitting around your warehouse or your office building?
Nothing matters.
And then have a ragtag team of 4 cops like wandering
around.
Some
people just like to see the world burn.
The story doesn't make so much sense. That's got to be it. But the level design was great as well. They brought, you were working through a hotel. There was a cool office space. You were on a massive ship. So the environments were really memorable from back then. And Rowdy will know this about Zim. Zim loves currency, right? Like in Demio. I just go for the gold all the time. Well, in Firewall, this is exactly the same. there's little stacks of coins
God.
around. And so maybe feck your teammates and go find some money so you can upgrade your bajingalies on your weapon instead.
I know who's not on my team.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not kidding.
The dingling hunter.
You also, for example, after you'd customized your weapons, you could pick up your enemy's custom weapons and hang on to them, which was really cool. So if you got a gun with a really awesome skin you hadn't unlocked yourself yet, you're like, haha, it's mine now. You know?
Would the other person then lose that skin? No, right? Okay.
Oh,
they could reset, right? But you would get that kind of coveted weapon. I like that idea though, Rowdy, where it's like, hey, now I respawn and someone else has my gun.
It's like have you ever seen Afro Samurai? Where you need to go for that that number 1 spot, but only number 2 can challenge number 1, but everyone else can challenge number 2.
It's a game.
No, it's like an anime, but it's like that similar kind of concept. Then if you would have a skin that you could only lose, or some people would not use it or whatever. It's kind of like a cool concept of these very unique kind of skins, where you would have to try to kill that one person. Kind of neat.
So much
That's
pressure.
a cool idea.
So much
That's
pressure.
that's real collectible. I sound old, but I'm pretty sure you guys remember Pogs.
Oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
I feel like Pogs in VR would make so much sense, because you could do that. You could straight up lose it in a match, and if the person doesn't want to challenge you again, that's it.
You know what worked really, really well in I think it was Bad Company 2? You would take the person's dog tags.
Yes.
And then you would forever on your page have their name as I knifed this person, right?
That's what
they could do that in VR, where literally you take something off of them if you get close enough. So it's you stay away from me, it'd be good. The other things that were working really, really well in the original Firewall, for example, was what they call the signal modifier, basically a signal jammer that would stop the attackers from hacking the laptop, which just was really cool. But it was also kind of annoying, but it was a team thing. You'd have these jammers sometimes even underneath the level, and you'd have to go locate them as a team, kill them before you could hack the laptop.
Oh, that's awesome.
So really that player base, working together, it was the first proper team game on PSVR. And to this day, people still play PSVR 1 in Firewall. Still got a bubbling community. So really it was a big success. And so far, I'd say the only hit success for First Contact. But then there were some things that weren't so good and that need to change with time. And we have yet to see if they are upgraded in the new version. So one of the things was lobby time. The amount of time it took you to get into a match, it was minutes upon minutes. In the worst period, it was 40 minutes waiting for a game. Nobody wants that, right? But it was very popular at the beginning, and obviously they were, dealing with growing pains. So hopefully that's all gone. Also, the system itself, right? PSVR 2 limits an FPS shooter quite dramatically when you have to face a particular camera. So you would have these guardian, what would you call them? Guardian nets that would say, nope, turn around, face your camera. And when that's happening to you in the middle of a heated battle, it's really not nice. So maybe First Contact didn't fix that, but with this new platform, that's no longer a problem, which is great. The other thing that really didn't work very well in the first game was bots. Bot AI was mediocre. It would serve its purpose, and you could train offline, but it wasn't at the same level, let's say, the Breachers bots are. So I'm hoping that they will solve that. But like Rowdy said earlier, it's quite important for lobbies to be able to, I'll call them, smoothly graduate from having not many human players to full stock human players, and to be able to accordion up and down. It just keeps the good times rolling. Private servers, passwording, all that kind of stuff is important. So that's that. I did want to talk to you a little bit about when's it launching. That's unrevealed, but the official PlayStation Twitter account said late 2023, which is actually quite a disappointment for people like me who bought their PSVR 2 really with this game in mind. Like, I saw all the other stuff, GT7 I wasn't bought into, Resident Evil could have been terrible, right? The thing I was fixated on when I bought my PSVR 2 was when's Firewall coming? Because it was the game that I loved and didn't have enough time with on PSVR 1 before I changed continents and had to sell all my gear. So we have to be a little bit patient in terms of this coming. What's new? So this is the same game, but now upgraded, enhanced. There's a new merc called Havoc that's going to join. And his benefit is that well, there's no polite way to say this. He drops a mine on his death. So when he dies, there's a mine left on his body. You can add whatever adjective you like there. And some of the features that come in this version of the game are eye tracking and aim down sight. There's a snap feature like what we've seen in a few other FPSs in VR recently, where if you get the gun close to your face, it kind of snaps in, right? And then it shows you the optics and you're able to aim down the sight a bit more easily. That is an optional feature that you can turn on or off. Adaptive triggers, foveated rendering. I'm telling you all this stuff that I'm sure you know already. Dark OLEDs are going to be great in this kind of game because it was quite dark in a lot of the environments. Weapon switching via a dial. This is another thing that we knew about before. So little cog shows up, you use your eyes to select on the wheel. We've done that in PSVR 2, and it's really easy to swap between weapons in the middle of a firefight. And let me tell you a little bit about the latest news that's most recent here. I think the one that excites me the most is going to be, again, that OLED panel, the brightness of the PSVR 2 combined with flashlight mounts for your weapons and flashbangs. So if you don't look away and you don't use your in-game hands to cover your eyes or close your actual eyes, your character will be blinded for a number of seconds, right? Just like in a flashbang. But I am nervous about the brightness of that display because it's already at the wincing level of brightness. And I wonder if people who go through this for the next year, after the game launches, like again and again and again, like I hope you don't take eye damage from that because it's going to be really fun. But I remember, I don't know if any of you were Battlefield players, but Battlefield 3, when it dropped, there were attachments on the weapon in broad daylight that you could blind somebody in their in-game character, like in broad. And I just wonder if that's what their launch is going to be like all these reports of people, coming out with sore eyes because of getting flashed and blinded.
You can definitely get eye tiredness, but the brightness from any display basically is nothing compared to what we have outside, for example, on a bright sunny day. Of course your eyes. The thing is that your eyes need to adjust really fast. And that's the thing why I say you might get tired eyes because you're looking at a fairly, we call it the lit screen, but it's a fairly dim screen, and all of a sudden every pixel there lights up. So the eye contraction is going to have to happen real fast. So that might cause the muscles pulling on the eyes might get a little bit more tired, I think.
I'm eager to see. See what it's going to do to me. Will it feel? Because I'll tell you, I've already had it in Saints and Sinners. Yeah.
Because if you for example would keep your eyes closed for 5 minutes and then go outside and open them all of a sudden, you also go oh damn, it's so bright. I even have it sometimes just sitting at a computer screen.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. Outside hurts.
Yeah. Stay inside. Forget the outside world.
Be
safe. Heard it here.
FReality.
FReality. There we go.
One of the most exactly. Well, one of the most contentious things about Firewall, I think, now is for modern VR FPS players that what's changed in the last 5 years? Well, we have real reload. You were talking about Ghost of Tabor, which really takes it to the extent of in your clip or your magazine, you've got individual bullets you place into the magazine. They even have you pressing bullets and creating ammunition. But in this game, aside from the lighting and the flashes and all that kind of stuff, right? There has actually been a bit of a backlash from the community that it's not manual reload, that it's literally button push reload. And
weird.
That's difficult, right? Even in a kind of a pop one sense, or if you take breachers is literally slap and go. It's grab your ammo bag, slap in the thing. There's no bolt action or anything. It's just slap and you're ready to fire. It's even simpler than that. And so a lot of VR vets who are attracted to this kind of game because it's very strategic in nature, it's team oriented, and it's a lot about skill. Hear that and they go, oh God, that sounds terrible. So FCE have come out with some news that feels like a knee-jerk response from the community, and they're going to add an ultra mode. So you've got Firewall Ultra mode, which will
Ultra. Max Ultra.
Manual plus, yes, Max Ultra plus gun reloading. So they're going to bring manual gun reloading as an optional feature. And I just wanted to ask, how do you guys think of that? Because whenever I see an artist change their direction on the backlash of a community, sometimes it feels a little bit like, oh, good, they saved the day, they listened to reason. And sometimes it's a bit like, well, you had a thing, and now you're changing enough elements with your recipe that maybe you're going to fuck it up. So I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. I mean, I take it you guys weren't Firewall players. Anyone here?
No.
No,
No one.
but I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. When it comes to reloading, I'm just so used to doing a manual. Even if it's just like magazine in the gun, it feels arcadey. Like it almost changes the style of the game to not be able to have that. So even just an option, like after the fall, for example, you can either do a quick reload that's maybe a button press, and maybe you get less credits. Like there's some kind of a deterrent so that you may not want to use it all the time, although it is PvE, so you can get away with that. But then they also have a manual option that you can use. I don't know how that would work in PvP though, but it's
a beautiful
options.
call out.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly after the fall's system, I think, is very good given the type of game. For a game that's PvP, and they are going to do that. They're going to allow you to basically take the hit, just like you would if you ever used like a force tube or something like that. You're not faster, you're not better, but you're more immersed and you feel great and it feels fantastic. And so manual reload is going to be added as an option after launch, which again is late 2023 in this ultra mode. So you can apply it and you're like, oh, I've got the satisfaction of manually reloading. The problem therein lies very similar to the first game. They allowed people to play on an aim controller or a dual shock back in the day on the PS4. And the problem with the DualShock was it allowed you to do your 180 flick turn much faster. You couldn't rotate that quickly with the analog stick on the aim controller, and your physical body motion would of course be slower. And so it led to some imbalance and the pro players opting for the less VR option. And so it's kind of what my concern is here is that I think FCE needs to develop something that will allow for, I'll call it like VR options enabled, like an ultra mode server, right? So everyone who's playing is on the same level and we're all using the same kind of elements, but that is subdivision. And so they have to make a decision if that's something they want to do at launch.
I'm a little bit on the different end of the spectrum, I think. I don't think that options here are, because it's a realistic shooter, right? Like, so yes. I think they should go for realism as well. And I think that for it being a VR game, one of the core things is immersion. And I think doing any kind of quick reloading or button pressing, it doesn't feel right with me. However, what they could do is make the like still ask for the action of the reload, but have it maybe not be as precise for like that you need to do the action and do the reload, that you can do that fast to make it more competitive, rather than you being finicking. Like exactly. Yeah. Well, you have like you need to do an action in order to do it, a manual action, but like not like actually look like is my thing going in
using
there?
physics to get the magazine in.
Is it in? Do I need something like that? Is maybe too much, yeah. But I would make it the same for everything, whether it's PvP, whether it's PvE, whatever it is. Level it everywhere the same, but make it a simple action. But button pressing and like I'm not a bad.
I think they won't.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think they won't
because it's PlayStation.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it goes to show, and what sucks overall is that the reality of VR is, as much as we're talking about, a lot of like specific or unspecific or forgiven actions in VR. All of those actions that we're talking about tend to be running on an engine that's predicting those movements. Yep. So even unfortunately, the entire ecosystem of VR when it comes to being on a competitive level is almost a ruse, because unfortunately the stack and this goes back to a conversation I've been having with people behind the scenes about VR is that I bringing her back up again, but Amanda Watson and I had a conversation about virtual reality and about the logic about behind the scenes, the engineering work of how virtual reality is using human action and translating into a virtual space. And she says, and she has a personal bet that in about 10 years, people who are very or still heavily involved in virtual reality are going to be talking about how ludicrous and crazy it was that we consider what we have now as virtual reality. because unfortunately most of the tracking is being done as predictive, and that's the problem. Before we even start talking about what is equal play in a virtual reality space, we first have to figure that part out and kind of remove the predicting or prediction side of it all. And that's the problem. There's no way that you can ever create equality between a controller and a VR, a human.
And that's not even just talking about the differences between from one human player to another, right? Like, I mean, then you have accessibility options, and you have, someone might be playing and have a hand that they were born with it and was misshapen or something, and it's a different orientation. And how are you going to reload? How are you going to? There's so many permutations in this space that it's a big problem to solve. I recognize that, but like Rowdy, I think my compass north is like, don't. Like, if you think about Onward, when they first brought in free, smooth locomotion, and like developers were up in arms at that time about it. It's like, oh, we can't do that. It's going to make people sick. Like, aim for the end goal. Don't aim for the halfway house. Aim for the end goal. Aim for the thing that you want your game to do. And I get it. Like, there is going to be some hesitation, no doubt, in a dev studio with a game that's literally their breadwinner to change away from that formula. But there are some things that should be ripped out. And I think the thing that they did wrong initially was have two quite starkly different control methods. And then they're putting players head to head in a competitive game with two different sets of tools. Yeah. And it shouldn't be that. It should be one set of tools.
Are they doing that in the second one too, or is it only going to be with the Sense controllers?
So it is Sense control at the moment. I didn't hear about DS support. I don't know about the DualSense controller, if it will be supported. I imagine they probably will want to keep it because there are hardcore players from PSVR 1. That's their way. Like, they are competitive shooters. They've been playing for 5 years that way. I don't think that they could step away from supporting it. But I think they should. I
Yeah.
I agree with Rowdy. One set of controllers. Stick with your Sense controllers from PSVR 2. Otherwise, you end up with, or split, right? Or put a segment between it and say, okay, you're on controller, you're going to play against controller people.
Yeah.
Flat out. And that means you're going to divide friends groups, but so be it.
It makes the game look like
a design choice.
Yeah, based on what you're talking about, it makes the game really sound like it has an identity crisis, because especially most of the people that get into these games, they're looking to feel like they're actually ranking up the charts. The last thing you want to do is always be number 2 and then find out that number 1, the reason he's winning is because he's using, DualShock or something of that sort. It definitely, at least a sour taste for sure.
And it's not even a mod. Like, when someone uses a stock and it's like, okay, fair enough, didn't have the money, I just used a baguette, aged it a couple of days, used some tape, boom, got myself and then I start winning matches. Like, I get it, right? Yeah. It's kind of outside the norm.
Is that a
but
real
when
story?
It's one of the de facto controllers, it is. I did that.
I love it.
Are there photos
she doesn't know.
The Zim story.
Yes. I'll dig out my baguette stock.
Yes.
It was only £1, so about $1.50 for best stock in the world, and it's edible. So anyway.
Carbs, got
crumbs everywhere, however. So I just wanted to just give a message to both of these teams, Triangle Factory and FCE. First off, Triangle Factory, the thing that they did so well in Hyperdash and then now in Breachers is the fluidity of the gameplay, going from match to match, and the motion of the characters. For example, they've got better AI. A great feeling of team play, customization, and content pipeline is what they lack, right? And then Firewall's got that in droves. So the fact that they're going to be able to launch out with this copy, some people never having played Firewall are going to drop it and go, oh my God, it's so great, because there's just so much to do and unlock. The cover system from Breachers, which means where I'm standing underneath me, there's a tiny little square. And if I physically move to the right, either lean my body or physically move to the right, that square stays there. And what the enemy sees is my character leans out over the door. The full character's body isn't moving out. It's just a peek, like you would do if you were playing paintball or something like that. And systems like that make it feel more immersive, allow you to play better, even if you're someone who isn't the quickest shot. And it just feels more real. And then that breaching swing system, I don't think Firewall can adopt that. That's obviously the namesake of the other one. But both of these, games also support something that helps you keep playing, which is out of the game support. So if you're dead, you're not out of the match. What you're doing is, in Firewall, you're looking through security cameras, and the way it works in PSVR 2 is if you keep your eyes locked on a player who you see on the enemy team. So let's say I see someone who's a terrorist who's defending a base, and I keep my eyes on them, and I'm looking at them through the security camera. Jose's in the game, and he's going to see a ping, like a square outline on the map of that person. So it gives me a jump advantage to be able to know where the enemy is, shoot accurately, maybe blind fire around a corner. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how these games work, because that's the same thing in Breachers. In Breachers, you can fly around, but you can only see what the players see with their line of sight. So it's a similar system, but not the exact same thing. I only have one message to the FCE devs, and that's this, because we saw them release Solaris Off-World Combat before in an unready state, and then limped, and then died, right? That's what happened, unfortunately. So my ask is, like, even if you had to delay it to 2024, do not release this thing prematurely. Make sure it's fun. You get one release, only one chance. So make it fun, have it ready, and release it when it's ready to come out of the oven.
Solaris was fun. I really liked that game.
Fantastic game. And I think what they're going to do with Solaris is the same thing here. Solaris 2, which has been announced, but only in teasers. I think they're going to rebake the initial game, make it better, bring cosmetics, bring a progression system, and have a full package out. But again, that same message. Guys. 2 hands,
on release,
full game, progress mechanism so the game doesn't die, and people are still climbing that ladder. It works really, really well in FPSs. So that's probably enough of going on about both Breachers and, of course, Firewall Ultra. So looking forward to that still, with a little concern that maybe some of their design decisions are going to scupper the whole thing. But if they give us, hardcore only servers and stuff like that, then good. I think they're in for a win.
Nice.
So speaking of reloading, we've also got Jose here, primed and ready to restock your ammunition with some fine new VR games in his out and upcoming releases highlight. So Jose, what have you got in the back of the truck this episode?
Oh man, the back of the truck is kind of empty. A lot of VR games are they don't like to release games at the end of the month, but I do have 3 notable ones for you guys. The first one I have is I'm going to call it the release, not a port, because it's definitely its own. It looks like it's to be rebuilt from the ground up, but it's Everslot Invasion. Looks like to be making its debut on the Quest 2. We have seen Everslot on PC VR, but it looks like they just amped it up. It's a tool player. It reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you guys ever played Dishonored, but the blinking mechanism about moving and teleporting and shooting, it looks like cooperative Dishonored. Looks to be releasing April 28th. That's up for $20 US, about 16 pounds. Yeah, it's a 2-player.
That game is amazing, by the way. Oh. That feels like Doom to play.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's really fast paced. So this release on Quest, did you say they're bringing multiplayer?
Yeah, it's actually a cooperative game, and it looks like they re-envisioned the maps from the original game, but with the mentality of multiplayer. Which is it just pretty
an
awesome.
Arena slash? Is it like an arena slasher? That's it. Is there anything else to it? Or?
It has generative. It looks like the environments actually generate. It has a deep progression system for what it looks like. So it looks like there's a lot of unlockables. There is some hook shot combos between the players. I haven't really played it yet. I'm very excited to try it.
Thanks, Serious Sam. So yeah, I played the first game for about a couple hours anyway, 2 or 3, right? But like, it's kind of like Serious Sam in that you're progressing through levels, Rowdy. It's not just jump in an arena and battle. So you are going from one part of a level to another part, taking on kind of waves of bad guys as you progress from A to B. And then you go to a next level and it's much tougher. One of the cool things with Everslot was the weapon mechanisms, where you could find a weapon and I think you could save it on a wall or something, and you'd like unlock from a chest a special weapon with better statistics. So kind of like Borderlands style, you're continually upgrading your weapons and you get the weapon you really like. And then you can even, I think you can take that weapon and you're like pounding it out. Almost like if you were heating it and pounding it out, just to upgrade it, make the sharpness, the damage, or whatever else. Cool. So it's got some good mechanics, and if I'm not remembering wrong, there's some part of that where you're collecting the blood or the souls of your enemies and then draining them so you get more upgrades. But the whole thing felt very Doom. It was quite good.
The trailer,
the best part of
From the trailer, I'm not really too convinced. Like from like seeing it. I mean, Serious Sam, of course, is a brand, right? For me, like it's and it has. I mean, it kind of has a story to it, although it's not too impressive. But it's more like a gimmicky kind of game, you know? Like it's kind of laughing with itself the entire time. I don't really have the impression from this from Everslot.
Yeah,
yeah. There's not much of a story.
No.
To it.
And what I would say,
it's mostly faceless.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's mostly faceless. Yeah.
And what I like about it the most is traversal, right? I love games where the weapons allow you to kind of like maneuver yourself around the map, and the idea of there being cooperative combos between players, so that way you can actually move around the map much faster. I love games where you can actually like focus on upbringing your skill set with somebody else, and kind of you mentioned it earlier. Funny enough, Army of Two is one of those games that you kind of have to kind of learn the person you're kind of playing with, and I love the idea of that being done in VR.
What is Army of Two? I don't know this one.
It's
that's not a VR.
It's a PS3 game. It's I believe it's a third view perspective shooter, and it's a 2-player cooperative game, and you kind of it's completely from the entire game it's a cooperative game, so it's you cannot progress it without the other person. So I love those kind of games. There was another one called Get Out. I don't know. It was I think A Way Out. I believe it's called. Yeah, Way Out.
I've been playing.
One?
Yeah, A Way Out is the
one
prisoner
with my
one.
husband.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. That
amazing.
was supposed to be really good.
It's so fun, and I love those kind of games that you kind of almost are the entire stories with one person, so you get to kind of connect.
But again,
kind of
this is not
yes.
like that though, right? This is
no.
2-player.
Well, it
Okay.
technically is, right? Because you kind of are traversing with the player. It is a cooperative game, unlike the original one. So it looks.
This is
based on the marketing.
This is like. Sorry, I was just gonna say, like it reminds me of Stormland.
Yes,
that's what this reminds me of. In other words, it's a game that you played single player that now they've added like Ready Player 2 to it. But there isn't that yin and yang combination of two distinct characters or two distinct players with different gameplay mechanics. It's Clone 1 and Clone 2.
To me, this looks like
it's Ninja Turtles. Yeah, I love that. I love that approach.
To me, this kind of looks like Blade and Sorcery, but then with 2 people.
Exactly. That's awesome. Like multiple. That sometimes some games with very simple and fun mechanics. That's the best way to give more of. Just sharing that experience with more people. So that's Everslot Invasion. And next one, I have something completely slower pace, and it's
sorry, just before you go to the second one, that game reminds me of Sirento.
Yes,
which also had a multiplayer component to it. That's the closest thing in VR I think that we've had so far. Sirento, because they're like you said, the grapple mechanics and all that are really extreme. So Sirento was fun multiplayer. I am a little bit with Rowdy in that I think the trailer doesn't sell it very well. It feels a lot better to play than that trailer shows off.
So.
But,
yeah, that's yep. So
that's a slow-paced one though. I'm curious because you're really slow.
Yeah, this one is
really
slow.
hard.
This is slow. This one is a PC VR classic. I believe it came out during the pandemic. It's so weird because it's such a blur to me because I remember enjoying this game a lot and I have no memory. It's been boggling my brain, but it's Eye of the Temple. It's releasing on the Quest.
Oh, right.
Yes, on April 27. It's a adventure puzzle game. There's a game that I'm trying to remember right now that's a puzzle, but I can't. I'm blacking out on it. But it's a torch-based, torch and whip adventure game. The music, that's the only thing I remember very vividly because I played this game in PC VR, and all I remember is the music. It sucks. I remember having fun with the game, but all I thought
it was amazing. The music. That's the only thing I remember. It was so good. I was like, it sucks.
The music is so good. It's.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
I can tell you something about this game.
Please.
So one of the things is Eye of the Temple is one of the very, very few room scale games. And if you have a large space to play in, like a 9 foot by 9 foot, 12 by 12 space, this kind of game is really great because there's so few. There's like less than 10 really decent room scale experience games, kind of like a T for God type thing.
And the camera angles
one of those
are so well done. Like this makes the game so much cool to look at. I think if Yeah, exactly. No, but it's perfect. It's perfect for that. Because this is like a party game. That's how I call it. Like if you have a bunch of friends over, you put that thing on the big screen, you cast it there, and you have this like little camera thing going on. Like man, like people are gonna be having fun on this just because it looks hilarious.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to the team. Appreciate it. But also, what I like about Eye of the Temple specifically is it's room scale, but the developer does a good job of making sure you don't just like it's hard to explain when you're in it, but you're moving forward, but then eventually you're kind of moving in like a square. Like you're always moving back to sort of the same location you started eventually, even though it doesn't feel like it. It messes with my brain because I check and I'm like, where am I? And I'm like, oh, I'm like in my room, my play space still. It's very interesting, but it's.
Have you played T for God, Adam?
No,
like
I have
as well.
Not.
Yeah.
You really need to try T for God. You will lose yourself. That is an amazing game. Wait for it to come out in full. It was a SideQuest game for Quest or whatever. But I would say wait for that, but keep your eye on it because if you enjoyed that feeling of like when you come out, you literally have zero idea what your orientation is going to be, or even where in your house you might be. Then that's a really cool game. But Eye of the Temple is finally getting a release on the platform where I think it should have launched, 100%. Right? Like
Makes
on
sense.
Steam in cabled VR doesn't make as much sense as being able to stand in the middle of a room, cast to a TV or a phone or something, and as Rowdy said, it's like a really good party game because it's not too intense. It's not snap motion stuff. There are some sequences where you can get crushed by things.
Yeah, the traps.
But
because you're pretty much using your own legs. You're not. It's not like you have to use the motion at all. You're actually walking, so it's great for motion sickness and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Great demo game.
Yeah, and it looks like the Quest 2 version is also asking for at least 3 meters of space. So it looks like they are applying the same expectations of space in the Quest 2 version. So I'm really excited about that. It is slated for the 27th. There's no release pricing yet, but that's April 27th on the Quest 2.
Nice.
I'll give one tip here, which is if you don't have the room in your house and you can catch lighting correctly around dusk, right, for about an hour, you can play this kind of game in a flat garden really nicely. Just mind your lenses, right, if you're going outside. Don't be pointing them to the sun.
We're going to get so many comments on people being like, you can't play the Quest outside. It's like, what? I'm not playing like this,
Yeah, I'm staring at the sun.
But man, that's a great comment bait right there. Yes, play your headsets outside. We're going to get all of those angry comments.
That's okay. That's okay. I've burned a headset or two in my time.
Oh, that always worries me if it's facing a window, especially. I'm always very careful about where I'm putting it back because I'm like, I don't want that to happen to me. It scares me.
I have so much paranoia about that, like having a window facing my headset. It's crazy. And last one I have is a game that we probably have heard of and tried, which is Propagation. It's a cooperative horror games. I believe they have like four games. It's a cooperative horror shooter. You're going through like a bunch of corridors. So they're actually releasing. It's done by one of them studios. They've done Ragnarok and a lot of cool, well-known VR games. But it looks like they're doing their foray on single player. With Propagation Paradise Hotel, which it reminds me a lot of, I think it's Phasmophobia, but it's a single player narrative where they take you into a haunted house and there's, it's kind of their take on single player horror games. I don't think they kind of have done games like that. All of the ones that they've done have been multiplayer or cooperative. So seeing them take on single player looks pretty interesting to me. The trailer is kind of creepy.
It's like Paranormal Activity a little bit. It just reminded me of that game.
I've been looking forward to this one for so long.
Oh yeah, no,
that's coming PSVR 2, right? As well.
Not initially, I don't think. Right? Maybe I think that's going to be a later launch. Maybe.
Damn.
So right now, I think
that's where I want to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
2 PC
I'm
VR
good.
With
it's just so weird though, because going from Ragnarok to this, it's like so different. You go from like Viking low poly rhythm drumming game to like single player story horror. I'm like, wow, that's that's a big contrast. So I'm curious,
applaud
but
that, though.
yeah,
They
I mean,
love-
I really applaud
I'll
that.
tell you this from one of the, because I actually interact with them a lot from my company. They have a platform called Octopod, which is my launcher manager for arcades for these kinds of experiences. One of their earlier games is a game called Propagation, which is a similar.
That's right.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
It's a cooperative multiplayer horror shooters. And you can tell that this is kind of like a passion project for them, because I remember trying their propagation games, and their CEO, one of their developers, was like, "What do you think of, there's a lot of scary stuff. There's like a spider head in one
I
of
love
them.
it's short, but it's fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's good. It's
they
one of those
love-
2-player co-op sort of games we were talking about earlier, but just a really short experience, but very good.
And they have a
Very
free
good. I
roam.
forgot.
They actually have a free roam version of it where you can actually run around each other and shoot down the zombies. So you can tell that there's some sick-minded developers over there that just love scaring people, because the first time they forced me to try it, right? They were like, "No, Jose, you got to play Propagation." I was like, and the developers were just full of excitement and gleam. I was like, "Did you get scared? Did you get scared?" So I'm don't want to try this game, but I'm excited.
I can't get enough of this. I'm like Adam. Like I'm a sick fella. Like I love this kind of stuff.
I'm like Adam. I'm
and
a
honestly,
sick
there isn't
fella.
enough of it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say sick. Is it like
I'm a wimp.
sick? That's
Yeah,
how I'm gonna take it.
sick.
Sick.
No, yeah. No, they're I would say sick-minded, because you see those monsters. No, they're sick-minded. Like, you see those monsters, I'm like, only somebody twisted, some John Romero worshipper kind of minded person will.
Very creepy, in that one.
Yeah.
So if you haven't tried that, it's I forget how much it is on Steam, but it looks very good too. For I think it's aged a bit now, but it still looks great for the current times, and it's super short. You can finish it in one PlayStation. I liked it though. It was really fun, really scary.
I
Creepy.
definitely want it. Well, see, I haven't played it yet, so it's good. I'm happy to hold it, but I think I'm going to hold for the OLED panel. I think I'm going to hold off because
But yeah,
that black levels in the PSVR 2 are just so lovely. So yeah, run it back for us there, Jose.
Yes.
What were those 3 games
so those
again?
3 games were Everslot Invasion, releasing April 28th for the Quest 2. It looks like right now it looks like that's the only one that's been announced. It's $19.99 US, 16 pounds. Second one is Eye of the Temple for the Quest 2, releases also slated for April 27th. No pricing on that yet. And the third one is Propagation Paradise Hotel by One of Dev Studios. Looks to be releasing on Steam and Quest 2. Price announced yet, and that's on PC VR for sure on May 4th.
Just around the corner.
Yep.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, thank you for running us through our releases again. Jose, I appreciate it. Always like your picks. I like how you'd take an angle for each time. And that certainly helps. So chat, let us know if you have any final questions for the crew before we wind this one up. I'm going to recount our show details for those of you who might not know them already. This podcast is live every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. It's a fortnightly show. It's every 2 weeks. Two. We like the number 2 these last few podcasts. The show starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. We've got our audio engineer, which is who does an audio version that's just beautiful for us. That's Sir Rowdy. Like a blade in the forge, and tempers that the cool waters of SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes. If you couldn't catch us live, drop us a comment and keep those good vibes coming. Share and with others that you think like a bit of rough and tumble VR nuts like us. And if you want, get in touch at contact@FReality.tv. With that said, have we got anything in chat before we get ourselves out of here?
Did want to give a quick shout out. PD or Paradise Decay for audio listeners does have a premiere after this show for Eye of the Temple on Quest 2. I think he said he's using a Quest Pro. So if you did want to see what that looks like in action, definitely check out his channel. Super exciting.
Good way to go.
I might do that because
PD has done some pretty cool things. Like he went into a haunted basement for some horror games before, and he tends to kind of get out of his comfort zone. And I want. Yeah.
Oh.
We have such opposite reaction. You're like, why? And I'm like, oh, how can I join? It's to phasmophobia in a creepy basement somewhere.
Different cultural background, I think.
Yeah, I'm a proud wimp. I carry that like honor. I'm good.
Me neither.
Well, with that, if you're if you're into it, go give PD some support. He's our lovely mod of many years. And that's enough time away from my HMD, I think. Have fun feeding your own addictions. We'll see you next time. I'm going to jump off to Breachers this afternoon. So come back next time for some more colorful VR and AR news. Until then, ciao,
Bye.
ciao.